What's going on, everybody out there? Welcome to episode 4 here on the Rue Morgue 200 Challenge. Got the co-host J to the P.
Yeah, I'm back again.
That's right. And of course, I be the toxic offender, your boy, Moodz. Right. Episode 4. So for episode 4, the randomizer gave us a film from one of the epic years of the 80s. 1988's The Lair of the White Worm, which recently, within the last, 3 years, whatever, got a Vestron Blu-ray release. It's crazy.
I think it came out in like 2017, bro.
So it was like 5 years ago.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah.
This is number 6 on the spine.
Yeah. You know, I actually reviewed this one, I think it was back in 2000, whenever I did the 88 series, 13 or 14, and that was actually the first time I'd ever seen this movie. I think it might have actually been the only movie from that whole 52 horrific weeks that I'd never seen before. So, lo and behold, this is actually the second time I've actually ever watched this movie, believe it or not. I had not watched the Blu-ray since I picked this up. It was still sealed. Kind of glad I didn't, because just whatever, it was it was kind of cool to open it up and watch the Blu-ray, but yeah, no, it had been a long time, like 8 years, and I don't even know why I had never seen this movie until about 8 or 9 years ago. It's kind of strange. It's just one I don't remember seeing around in the video store, and I believe for a while the DVD was kind of hard to get. For a while, I think it may have been out of print or something. I think that's probably why, and I just ended up finding a cheap copy, but yeah, now it's very readily available if it's still in print from Vestron.
I think it's still in print. This was like one of the more expensive ones because, as we know, when Vestron first came out, their releases were like $30, and now they're like $12 in the States, at least. I know yours are still expensive. First time watch for me as well. Mine was still sealed, so right. I got to crack it open actually.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I know. That's the weirdest thing about Vestron, right? Is when they first started, they had these really overpriced Blu-rays, $30, but they were very, very readily available in Canada. Like, you could get them at, like, they were just easy to come by. And then they lowered the prices to like, $12 or whatever. Now they're like, realtors up here don't even fucking carry them. Like, you got to get them from like specialty shops and shit, and some, like, Amazon doesn't even carry half the new releases. It's really bizarre.
So weird.
It is weird how that kind of worked, right? Like, I've been having a shit time trying to acquire some of these later titles, and they're not coming with slip covers. And
meanwhile,
at this
ours
point, I'm
is
like,
so
okay.
easy to get.
Yeah.
Like, Dream a Little Dream was like $12 in Walmart.
Right. I know. It's just ours don't carry them. It's got to be a regional thing. Maybe it's the way they repressed, because they took a long break off from releasing stuff, right? So maybe something happened with the rights or something, and it got a little bit more regional, because it's funny, because some of the odd title will be on Amazon, but some of them won't be, right? It's just strange how that really does work. So
it's actually $20.93 on Amazon.
Wow.
So some of the older titles, their prices don't seem to drop very much, but kind of interesting that, I mean, some of them are easier to get than others. Yeah, this was January 31st, 2017 was the release date.
Shit, man. So it's been that long. Wow. It's crazy how time flies, man. Yeah, so first time watch for you. This is only the second time I've ever watched this film, so we're kind of new to this one. It's funny because it's the second time I watched the movie, and this is the second time I've reviewed it. So it's like, maybe it'll be another 10 years. I'll watch it again and I'll review it again. I don't know. But yeah, Ken Russell, man, he's most famous to me for directing The Devils with Oliver Reed. That's just a crazy, and this movie kind of has a connection to that movie a little bit, like with the religious imagery and just the religious angle of it and stuff like that. He also did Gothic, which is actually kind of like the Mary Shelley story of writing Frankenstein and stuff. Which this movie, The Lair of the White Worm, is actually based off a Bram Stoker novel too.
Very, very loosely.
Very, very loosely. He basically took like certain parts of it and then just incorporated the Ken Russell exploitive angles of.
Actually, he's on quote saying that he didn't even like the novel.
Right. Yeah. So he took like a core idea, and that's what I kind of figured too. And then he just made it a Ken Russell movie with his imagery and stuff. So he also did Altered States, which is those are like really the only 4 movies I think I remember from him.
He was actually one of the films he made. One of his early films, I think like 1969, was nominated for like 4 Oscars.
Wow.
And the actress actually won. So he actually directed a Oscar-winning film.
Wow, that's really great. And then he did The Devils, and then it was just like, well, he became the Ken Russell that we know of today. So right. I know that he also did I think he did a short in the anthology Trapped Ashes too. I think he did something in there, which I do own. So he did one of the segments in that, which came out in the mid 2000s or something like that. So, but I always thought that Ken Russell was a very interesting director. He always had a vision. And when you watch a Ken Russell movie, like he's got a lot of Ken Russell to it. It's like it's kind of like a Cronenberg movie or a David Lynch movie, right? You can just tell that they did those type of movies, right? That's what I like about Ken Russell. I wish he had done more films, really, because I like his style of filmmaking. So it's pretty interesting. But The Lair of the White Worm. Let's get into a quick little synopsis here. See how this one's written. Okay, when an archaeologist uncovers a strange skull in a foreign land. Are you fucking serious? In a foreign land? Okay, the archaeologist, I think, is from Scotland, and he found that in England. Is it really that foreign? Okay. The residents of a nearby town begin to disappear. Well,
what?
That's not really accurate. That's not really accurate at all. Leading to further inexplicable occurrences. All right, so that's a really stupid synopsis right there. It's kind of right but wrong at the same time. So this movie right here, oddly enough, is starring Hugh Grant, of all people. It's probably one of the only times I'll ever say that I enjoyed Hugh Grant in a movie. In which, like, he's not like horrible in a movie or nothing, but he's not like super standout either, but I mean, honestly, I don't know if I could even name too many other Hugh Grant movies. I just know that he's kind of one of those romantic comedy type actors, right? Shit that I'm just never watching kind of thing, right? So, yeah, and of course, the Priestess in the movie is played by Amanda Donahoe, and she's quite the vixen looking lady.
You know who she looked like? Every time I seen this cover, it reminded me of the mom in Beetlejuice.
Right, it does. That's a good point.
It always reminded me of the mom in Beetlejuice.
Right.
Like just how she looks here, like on the cover.
Right.
Oh shit.
Yeah, no, I totally see that now. I totally see that. So Hugh Grant plays Lord James de Hampton, and his kind of backstory is that his family, his ancestors might have been responsible for slaying this like mythological serpent or whatever, but he doesn't even know this until this archaeologist who's digging in this site on this it's like an old convent, right, that he lives near, and it's like an old convent or something like that. Anyways, he finds this huge skull and he's like, what the hell is this thing, right? So upon further investigation, they kind of come to the conclusion that it may have been like this serpent type skull or whatever and stuff like that.
Yeah, like the title Worm, they talk about it in that scene where he's talking at the party or whatever. Like whatever it is translated to like serpent or dragon or something, right? And it's just like it's not really a worm, but like it's worm-like, you know, it's like a serpent.
That's the weird thing, is like it does kind of resemble a worm, but it is supposed to be a snake, because the whole movie, it's just they reference snakes throughout this whole, like every 10-15 seconds of the movie there's a snake reference, right? It's like a very
like there's like a vacuum hose or like a water hose, right? Or like there's just so many snake-like objects in this film.
Right. Like, I mean, they even say snake. I mean, they say worm, but like the movie's super phallic. Like, there's everything has to do with snakes. There's like even a scene where this kid gets his penis bit off, and then there's just so much fallacy in the movie. It's like ridiculous, man. But they do reference snakes so much in this movie. They even talk about snakes and ladders. There's this great scene in the film where she's actually like playing, or she's talking about how she's like scared of the priestess is talking to Hugh Grant's character about how she's like she's scared of snakes and stuff like that, and he's like, then why are you playing snakes and ladders by yourself? Like, it's like so goofy, right? It's so freaking goofy. Yeah, so, but Hugh Grant's character is kind of okay, so he's like this lord. He's like this rich kind of like lord, right? He's, he's just what he is. Like, he's kind of like royalty kind of thing.
Yeah, like his family was like a big deal in the area. Right.
So I got a question about his character, though. So there's a scene where he's, that he goes to see the priestess. And he's got this, or he's, where he goes to see the priestess, but he's wearing a pilot uniform. What the hell is that about? Because there's no mention in the film that he, like, because he comes from royalty, he has money, he doesn't have to work and shit. I mean, his job is just being royalty, right? But he literally shows up at her place and he's having that cocktail or whatever, and he's wearing like a fucking pilot suit. And I'm like, did they mention that he was actually like a pilot? And then, of course, they have that pretty awesome dream sequence where he's on the plane and stuff, and then they got the two flight attendants who are like, which is another really phallic. It's ridiculous, the scenes. So these two, he has this like dream sequence where he's on this plane and these two flight attendants basically start wrestling and shit like that, and he's getting aroused and he's got this pen in it. He's just slowly kind of moving it up like it's getting erected and shit. It's really funny. But the only thing I could correlate to him wearing this pilot outfit was that scene. But then it's never really shown again. He's just kind of been plain clothes the whole thing. But it's just kind of an awkward thing. I don't know if it was cut out of the movie.
I don't know if it was like to make you think that wasn't a dream sequence at first, since he was, like, I don't know.
But all the dream sequences in this movie, and there is like probably 4 or 5 pretty decent ones where it's pretty fantastical. It's pretty fantastical. Like, it cuts.
Definitely some experimentation, green screen stuff going on there.
Yeah.
Very, like, the one that stands out to me is the one that kind of the cover, the background of the cover with the flames is like kind of like it's in her eye. It's like very weird. I was like, what is this?
Right.
It's so strange.
The effects don't necessarily hold up like that well, but they're still kind of effective where they are, because it really does let you know when you're watching it, like, something like 30 years later, that they're dream sequences, right? Like, they're meant to look like that. They're meant to look dreamy. They're meant to look a little bit awkward, but it's also a moment where, this is what I like about Ken Russell's style, is that it allows him to show you the Ken Russell, the exploitive side of Ken Russell, right? I mean, these dream sequences are basically showcasing the mythology of the serpent and stuff, and it's kind of exploiting religion in a sense too, kind of like what he did in The Devils, right? Too, and like you got
these soldiers raping nuns with like a crucifix and a big giant snake.
Yeah, you got the big snake on the cross, and then they're being raped, and that's like one scene. And then there's another one where you actually get to see like these dudes that have these huge like penis, like wooden penis like things, and they're doing some fucking and raping and stuff. And like I said, like, those are the most exploited parts of the film are in all these dream sequences. Like, if you cut out the dream sequences of this film, it's pretty uninteresting, to be honest. Right? Because it does.
Well, it's so weird because like you have this ancient snake that exists and
well, the snake is the god.
Sacrifices.
The snake is basically a pagan god. It's like, it's the altar. Like, okay, our priestess here, played by I think her name's Sylvia Marsh, right? She's like she's technically a priestess, right? Which she is the one that basically feeds the god, right? Because this mythological creature within the narrative of the movie it's mythological to the normal person, right? But what we come to know, it actually kind of exists. It was never really fully slayed, and it actually does roam underneath the ground, kind of like a tremor in a sense. And she's like on Earth doing her job her job is just to feed her god. Right? That's literally what her job is. They don't really explain too much with the virgins. Like, it always comes down to religion and virgins and stuff like that, but they don't really go too much into why she chooses, maybe because it gives her god more power, or that's what really does kind of quench the hunger of the god is the virgins. But it doesn't go into detail why it needs to be a virgin, because it doesn't actually have to be. Because if you look at the girl that was chosen, her sister, she has a sister in the film, but her parents went missing in this film too, right? Like, they went missing.
I think she's mentioned something about her, like being a virgin, like, oh, this is even better or something.
Right.
But like, I don't think you're right. It doesn't have to be a virgin.
No.
But like, even just the snake, the priestess or whatever. Yeah. This, like, it is a weird,
like, she's immortal.
Like a snake vampire.
Yeah, she's
weird.
She's like this. She's kind of like the henchman for the god in a sense. Like, she's an immortal. She's like an immortal serpent / vampire, and that's kind of the cool thing about the movie, is that you're playing off this whole snake angle, but then it kind of twists on you a little bit. And I like the fact that, like, when the snake priestess bites you, literally poisons you with her fangs, you turn into like a snake vampire. Like, it's really odd. But the cool thing about this movie that I always thought was really interesting is that you can kind of hypnotize, like you can, like, cobra snakes, right, with music. So the way that you can
ridiculous, so like, especially when the bagpipes come out.
Yeah, like when you get bit, you turn, but you can also calm the storm by playing some music like you would with and I thought that was ridiculous, but I still think one of the funniest things ever is when she pulls out the earplugs and she's like, ha.
Yeah, right.
It's a goofy fucking movie. Like, you know what, I really do think that Ken Russell, the reason why I enjoy this movie somewhat is if you look at it from the point of Ken Russell, where he's almost saying fuck you to organized religion, right? Because he's using this pagan mythology and this cult religion and stuff like that against Christianity, right? You know, there's so many things within the movie. It's like,
she spits acid.
He's
on the
poking fun.
Crucifix.
Yeah, he's poking fun at Christians the whole time. Like, he's calling, the God, your fake God. Like, she's saying this through the whole month, like, your God is fake. Like, it's ridiculous. And, your Jesus is impotent and stuff like that. And, like, there are all these jabs at, like, Christianity and stuff throughout the film. And I do kind of find it interesting, too, like, how when they not possess, but I guess poison or kind of change humans into, like, these vampire serpents or whatever. It's kind of like stating, like, this is how easy it is to convert people into, into buy into Christianity and stuff like that. It's as simple as this. And, like, that's the way I kind of see it when I watch the movie, because I know what Ken Russell's doing. I mean, it's very exploitive in that aspect and stuff. So I think it's kind of neat that he doesn't do it serious. He takes the comedic angle of it. He makes these, like, ridiculous scenes. He exploits the shit out of religion and sexuality and makes the movie, like, it's just one big phallic moment. But he's poking fun every chance he can with these little anecdotes of, like, I love the impotent Jesus thing. That's pretty funny, actually. But
it feels so experimental, like, story-wise. It's just like where did he come up with this? I know it's based on a novel, but it very, very, very loosely. Mm-hmm. And it's just like this weird movie. Like, I mean, it's one of those classic examples of, like, if someone's like, what did you watch last night? Oh, I watched Lair of the White Worm. What's it about?
Right.
Like snake vampires,
serpent vampires,
serpent gods.
Yeah.
Like, it's just it's weird. There's a bagpipe scene where they charm a snake,
right.
A snake woman. Like, right. It's so ridiculous. But so was the skull one that they did slay, and there's another one?
I think it was just a symbol of the god, because her god was still alive. I think it was more or less a symbol. So it may have been something at one time, right? It may have been another one, but see, it's implied through the first part of the movie until there's, like, a reveal that, she's really trying to sacrifice someone for her god, so it's physically alive, that it's actually alive. right? Because because it's for the townspeople, it's like mythology, like your family killed this thing, but it's always lingered. It's always lingered, but it's implied that it could still possibly be alive. And that was the one part of the narrative that really kind of annoyed me, is that Hugh Grant's character didn't even know really about his family history, but the townspeople knew about this mythology, and like his ancestors are the ones that actually slayed this fucking thing. And they always kind of been like, well, it still could be around, because that's where the parents disappearing kind of has everybody on edge. Like they just disappeared like out in this area, and basically between those tunnels and that certain areas where the worm goes back and forth, and that's where they disappeared. So the townspeople were like convinced, like the cop was basically convinced that there's something else going on here, right? I just found it really interesting. Hugh Grant's character, like they almost play him like as a dim-witted fucking lord, like an idiot. Like, how do you not know this shit, man? So I'm thinking that skull must be related to something else that was sacrificed. I don't know, because he's not dead, so they don't really elaborate on it too much. But but then again, you know, she does steal it, which doesn't really play into a whole lot.
Yeah, like what was the point of stealing it?
I don't really know, because like the worm or the serpent or whatever you want to call it is there. It's alive. Like there's this, it's yin, you know, it's there. It's weird. It's weird. I don't know, but it's very, very, very weird. Like the blue paint is weird. I mean, I assume that's supposed to be what she actually looks like. It's not supposed to be paint. Yeah. Like her true form. But also just like the bagpipe thing like cracked me up. I was like, fucking bagpipes, dude. Right. Like the scene with the Boy Scout or whatever the hell he was with the, you know, in the because she's like a seductress, and she takes him back to this younger dude back to her house, and they play snakes and ladders, and then there's all these like innuendo things like, oh man, like it's so ridiculous. Like I don't like, the whole time I was watching this I was like, what is this movie? Right. I guess like you kind of being your second time watching it, you kind of knew what to expect, but I was just like, where is this going? What is this? It was like super weird. Like I didn't really expect it to be like this type of movie. Yeah, I know. When I first watched the movie, I was thrown off by the tone, because I was expecting it to be more serious, because I'd seen the other Ken Russell films at that point, and this one kind of threw me for a loop. I was like, oh, it's very kind of sarcastic, and they're kind of poking fun at this and that and stuff. So the tone was like completely off to me. That I think works for what he's trying to do here. I think if you played serious, it could be a totally different type of movie. I don't know if the dream sequences or all the, you know, innuendos and phallic moments would work if it was being serious. So I think if you're going to incorporate that into it, you got to kind of keep it, you know, very kind of definitely has not overly temperamental. In there. Yeah, the best scene in the movie though, man, is when they find out the person's mom is still alive. Oh, dude, she turns all vampire snake. Funniest shit ever. And then with the fucking broadsword, dude. Oh my god, dude. Like, dude, it's my favorite part in the whole movie too. In half, and like he swings it so hard that he like spins around and falls down afterwards. No, he falls into the fucking drum set, and he's all like disorientated, and I'm like, and his body's like cut in half and shit. It's like ridiculous scene, man. It's so ridiculous. Yeah, and then like the snake, like it looks like a snake on the ground, like how it's like wiggling both sides and shit. Right. You know how like, I don't know if you've ever cut a snake in half or saw someone do it, but they still, their muscles maybe just a worm move. Not I wouldn't say a snake, but I've definitely done a, you know, chopped a worm in half, but yeah, I don't know, man. It is definitely a very awkward film. I think it has its moments with there's decent shot scenes and stuff. You know, the acting is what it is, and it's pretty decent for what it is, but it's honestly the construction of the movie. I don't like the first like half an hour of the movie as much as I do like once the dream sequences start and stuff, because the first half of the, or the first like, you know, probably the first act of the film is like introducing all these characters, and you're going, okay, where the fuck is this going? Right? Like you've got like obviously the priestess, we've seen her, we've seen the archaeologist, then we get introduced two sisters. Then we get introduced the two sisters and their story about their parents going missing and stuff. And then the cop is, you know, he's out there doing his thing and stuff. And then that's how we get introduced to the priestess. And then we got Hugh Grant's character, which he's the Lord, and it's kind of like very, very choppy for the first half an hour. And you're like, okay, so you do know that you're like, well, these characters are all going to come together and it's all going to mean something. But it's just the way it's constructed. It's kind of like it doesn't really have a fluent flow to it. It's very, very choppy. Like even when even rewatching it, I was like, it's a very choppy film, and it almost feels
it feels a bit messy.
It does, man, and it does even into the third act. It still feels fucking a little bit choppy and kind of disorientated and stuff. It's very strange. But
yeah. And like, what's up with like, where did they get a hand grenade at?
Yeah, well, that's a good point. Dude, I literally wrote like, down in my notes. I'm like,
find a hand grenade. I'd be like, I don't know where to get a hand grenade.
Right. Like I'm like, they literally blew up the serpent god with a fucking grenade in this movie. Like that's how ridiculous this thing was, man. But you know what I will say though, like I didn't catch this the first time I watched it, but like the opening scene in the film with the archaeologist and just the over aggressive emotion and stuff with the characters and how they're like got really thick accents and stuff. Right at the beginning of this movie, totally feels like a New Zealand film, like a film from New Zealand.
Right. It does.
It totally does, man. And I'm like, oh shit, that's hilarious. I wonder if JP caught that because. And then
it really does, yeah.
It kind of loses that tone a little bit, but there's like bits and pieces of like New Zealand humor throughout the film a little bit. But that opening sequence, man, is just like screams like New Zealand cinema, man. It's crazy.
Yeah,
but
everything's so muggy in this movie too.
It is again, and I think when we reviewed Vampires last week, I made a comment about how the sun never shines in England, and I swear. I totally put it on the fact that like the reason why English people are so damn white is because they've never been exposed to UV rays.
Right. Yeah.
I've always said that, and yeah, someone actually made a comment. They're like, and he's like, I was talking to this dude from England, and he's like, man, it's actually raining here right now because I'm like, it only fucking rains in England.
Oh yeah,
right?
Of course.
Anyways, but yeah, it totally does. It has that muggy look to it, like it always does, and it looks cold as shit. There, you can see their breath all the time. It just has that cold kind of like just worn out, just beat down weather kind of feel to the film. It totally does, man. But I mean, there's things about the movie that I do think that are interesting. Like I do think that the whole Venom turning humans into like snake like vampires is pretty unique. But you know, and on the flip side, being able to tame them with the music is just kind of a quirky thing that really does work because you can actually do that to real snakes, right? So it kind of makes sense that you could actually do that.
So
but
weird.
It's so stupid, but it actually does legitimately make sense because if you are a snake.
The stupidest part of the movie to me is like the arthritis medicine part.
Oh, dude, man.
I was like, what? Sorry, that wasn't actually anti-venom. It was arthritis medicine.
Right.
And you're like, how does that happen?
You know what I was thinking too? So you take that one step further, reading to the end of the film where the dude that's bit and stuff, he's in the car with Hugh Grant's character, and then he realizes right before the credits roll that he's been bit, right? He kind of gives him that smirk kind of thing, and I'm like, so it's not like following typical here we go with the vampire mythology again, not following typical vampire mythology rules where a lot of mythology says like if you were bit by a vampire and before you fully turn, if you slay that vampire, you go back, right? You're kind of like you're good to go. Where we do know that, you know, there's something that happens with our Priestess and the and I guess the fucking Volkswagen Beetle, which I read in the trivia, which I'll explain that in a second, get blown up basically with a grenade and they fucking die and shit. But I was reading in the trivia that the mouth of the serpent was literally a Volkswagen Beetle painted because it looks like the mouth of a fucking snake.
That is so ridiculous.
That is what the effect is in that scene.
That is so ridiculous. I'm gonna have to pay attention to it next time, see if I can make it out.
Dude, I laughed. I was reading the trivia just while I was waiting for you, and I started laughing at that. I was like, "Oh my god, that's so funny!"
That's crazy.
Like, who would ever pick that out unless you read that, right? It's ridiculous, but
that's funny.
But again, yeah, it's not following any typical lore. But then again, what is in this movie really? I mean, the guy is just like he's a serpent. So I kept thinking to myself, I'm like, is he kind of like the new Priestess? but he wouldn't be because he's male. But
right,
it doesn't matter. There's no God anyways. But yeah, he's just like a walking fucking serpent vampire now. Like, it makes no sense.
Right? Yeah. Does the God come back, or like,
right?
You know,
I know.
Like,
does it continue along?
Do?
Does it continue along? It's ridiculous. But it's funny because, you know, as many times as we said like stupid and ridiculous in this movie doesn't. It's not like over the top goofy, or like, it's just not over the top. It's not like, you know, when you watch comedic like hardcore physical comedy, it's like completely over the top. This one's a little bit more subtle. Maybe not upon multiple watches, because, you know, once you kind of watch it, and you start noticing a little bit more phallic moments and all these ridiculous sexual references and things like that through the film. But, you know, it's not over the top, which I do like. And you know, you could have made this movie a lot more ridiculous if it had gone a little bit, you know, a couple steps further with the comedy and stuff. But, you know, I think the performances are pretty good. I think that they hold their own, and comedic shit is hard to do properly when you're trying to keep it a little bit more low key and subtle and stuff. So, but yeah, no, that's, you know, it's an interesting film. I was watching it thinking, I'm like, man, I wonder what JP's going to think of this, because I wasn't sure if you'd seen this one or not.
Right.
But yeah, man, I don't know. It's just it's a messy movie. I think, like I said, my favorite scenes in the movie are the dream sequences, because they're just very exploitive and very Ken Russell-ish. But it's a messy movie. It's honestly a messy movie. Like, a little bit more explanations to certain things would have been nice. The whole virgin thing, I mean, I guess it just kind of makes sense when, you know, what do you do for your god? It's always virgin based. So you could have just explained it away like that, but it doesn't have to be in this case either. So it's kind of ridiculous, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's an oddball flick.
But now you understand that Rue Morgue's alternative to our 200 alternative horror movies, though. So, like, basically movies that aren't falling on your typical, you know, favorite or best horror movies of all time lists. You're not going to find Lair the White Worm probably on any of those lists, because it's an alternative watch. Yeah,
I think that this one fits the criteria more than the other ones so far. I don't think it's like as good as the other ones, but it's definitely, like, if you're looking for stuff that's like, okay, different and oddball, and especially before this Blu-ray came out, a lot harder to see too. A lot of people probably didn't just have this one laying around. So yeah, I think this one definitely fits the list.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. You know, it's kind of interesting because I felt like so far, I don't know what people's status is on this film completely, if they've seen it or not, but vampires seem to be kind of hit and miss with people. Some people saw it, some people didn't, but I was very surprised at how many people had never seen Excision. And I've been watching Dave's, you know, his secret top 10, and he it's funny because it's been brought up a couple times in these episodes about Excision, probably because two people have had their top 10 female performances. Mm-hmm. So May got brought up on both lists, of course, because when I think of top 10 female performances, the first thing I think of is May. Honest to God, I think I even said that in the review too. But Excision's been brought up too because her performance, and I always forget her name, is really good in that movie. But I was surprised at how many people were like in the comments or whatever it is, and people are saying they've never seen Excision. It's crazy. So I feel like that one kind of fits in there. Just basically the fact feels like an alternative horror film, just in the sense that it seemed like it was more popular to myself than it actually was to other people, because it didn't get seen as much. It's kind of odd, but you never know.
Yeah, I think that one is like a bit of a hidden gem. Yeah. Actually, we covered that me and Carly guested on a show before where we each picked a hidden gem, and that was Carly's hidden gem.
What did you pick? Lair the White Worm?
Mine was Bedeviled. No, it was Bedeviled, the South Korean film.
Yeah, I love that movie. That movie's fantastic.
Yeah, criminally underseen too. But I also wanted to give a shout out now, since you mentioned people seeing things. There's a guy named Caleb Baker who's actually following along with this, and he's posting video reviews of the films as he's doing them after we post the episode.
Cool. It's gonna be a long haul.
Yeah, Caleb Baker 01. So, supporter of 22 Shots, he decided to give his thoughts on the films too, which is pretty cool.
Cool. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I'm always curious to hear what people think of, movies like Excision.
Yeah.
That's definitely one, because I felt like after we covered Alice or Alice Kills, however you want to call it, that one had a mixed response. Like some people flat out said they didn't even like that movie.
Really?
And others were like, I love it. And that's what I always find very intriguing about films like that. It's like crazy.
Yeah.
Like, like May kind of seems to be like 98% people love that movie. And then Alice Kills was
damn good movie.
Yeah. And it was kind of on the flip side, man. So very interesting, but you never know. It's cool, man. I mean, this person could love vampires and fucking give this movie a 9 out of 10. Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know, but do you got anything else to say on it? I don't really have much more. It's
I think I'm good on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't know what else to say without giving the whole damn thing away. So let's, with that said, we'll just get into ratings then. What do you got?
All right. Watching it, I was like, I don't know how to take this movie. Like, one hand, the things that you mentioned, like the dream sequences and just like kind of going for it with weirdness, I like that stuff. But like watching it as a cohesive narrative, I was like, this is kind of ridiculous and doesn't really make the most sense.
No.
But like I kind of like the idea of the mythology. I just think that it could have been fleshed out a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of a bit back and forth on it. Feels a little bit longer considering it's not that long. So I came in at a 6.5 out of 10. I think it's like a solid watch, but not something that it's going to be like heavily in my rotation of 88 films.
Yeah. I definitely picked up a lot more stuff watching this one this time. And I may have even enjoyed it more. I don't even remember what I rated this one the first time I watched it. I have no idea. But I'm kind of in the exact same boat, and that's right where my rating was. It was about a 6 out of 10 on this one, too. I think it has a lot of interesting things to offer. I wish it was fleshed out a little bit better, but it's more of the construction, man. I think the first act is a little bit tedious. And there's just certain angles. Like, I mean, honestly, dude, like, and you know me. Dream sequences in movies are generally not my favorite thing. And unless the movie's actually about dreams. So if I'm going to say that the best parts of this movie are dream sequences, that might be saying a lot, but they are very unique. And because they're so like in your face, like Ken Russell, like it's just ridiculous how Ken Russell that is. But it's a goofy ass movie, dude. Like we're talking like bagpipes and like and PA speakers that are taming the serpent vampires and shit, and when you can't play your bagpipes anymore, you better run, bro.
Yeah.
It's like
so weird.
But I honestly, dude, I laughed both times. The first time I watched it, I know I laughed at the part, and I laughed at this time too when she pulls out the earplugs. Tricked ya. I'm like, oh my god, that's so funny. It's so dumb, but it's like so stupid. It's entertaining for what it is, and it might even be better for you on a second watch kind of thing. It's okay for what it is. I give him big time props for painting up a beetle and using that as the mouth on the serpent god.
That's crazy.
It's pretty funny actually. But yeah, I mean the overall effects not really holding up the greatest. To be honest, they look kind of silly. They look, at times what they look like? They kind of look like really shitty versions of what you would see in like a really budgeted Beetlejuice movie. It's like it kind of has that feel to it, like a really bad version.
Yeah, a lot of Beetlejuice connections here.
Right. Oh yeah, totally. Right. Yeah, shit, I didn't even think of that. Okay, so let's get into what we're watching for week 5. I got everything in the randomizer. I got the other
big bucks, no whammies.
Yeah, no whammies. All right, so what we're gonna do here, you're just gonna have to trust me, and I'm gonna hit this randomizer button right now, and we have I Saw the Devil. I Saw the Devil.
That's a long one.
It's funny, man, because the next movie was The Devil's Backbone. 2 devil movies in a row.
Whoa.
And Ana Baba was number 3. Fuck, I just picked up the Eureka Blu-ray so I had it sitting on my coffee table. It's kind of funny. It was like 3rd. So
I mean, I Saw the Devil's a great movie. We've reviewed that one before.
Yeah, we did on 22 Shots.
This is our first repeat review.
Right. Yeah.
So
okay.
We will get to I Saw the Devil.
All right, I Saw the Devil. Yeah, there's such a mixed bag of movies on here, man. Like just from all over the places, man. It's gonna be interesting. I can't wait for something. Sure. I can't wait for I think Paper House is on here, right?
Yeah, I actually picked up a bootleg of that recently. Yeah. Curious on that one.
I have a Region 2 DVD of it. I reviewed it years ago on my channel. Maybe for 31 Days of Horror. I'm not sure what it was on. But that's a really cool movie, and I've been wanting to rewatch it. When I saw it on here, I was like, "Oh, cool, man, cool! I can't wait for that one to come out." So, but yeah, so that's Lair of the White Worm from 1988, episode 4. So we'll be back with episode 5.
First foreign language film.
Yep, sooner than later. Yeah,
right.
I mean, I'm always down for watching I Saw the Devil. That's for damn sure.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, it's a great movie.
It is.
I just watched it last year, but I'm fine with watching it again.
Yeah, it's definitely good. So, okay. Well, that's gonna do it, man. That's gonna do it. So, episode 4 is a wrap, and we'll check you guys later, man.
See you next time. Deuces.
Deuces.